Well, can I just start by just saying that I sit today very, very humbled and very in awe of our God. And, I started writing music when I first became a Christian when I was 15. And I never, ever understood the power of it, in a sense, other than it was like the only way that I felt I could express I was very broken at 15. I was already living at a home, and so when I got saved, it was, I'd already been singing full time since I was 10, and I was just a very messed up little girl. And so songwriting for me, as in a newly saved person, a new heart, it was like the only vehicle I could find that would allow what was inside to come out. And, as musicians, I know you're musicians and singers and writers, and, I had no idea that was part of God's call on my life. It was actually my lifeline at that stage. And I would just say to you that right from the beginning, I would pray that as Christian musicians, that we were always writing songs with a pure agenda, not for any other reason than to express, what is in us to express, and to help, in turn that helps others express what is inside them to express. And, throughout history, music and the arts have given a voice to that part of the human condition that nothing else can. And, so I just want to start by saying that, I know in my heart of hearts there was no agenda for me to write a song. It was my lifeline. And I still make sure that in my heart of hearts now, all these years later, and a long journey later, that actually my purest form of writing is going just to my piano and loving Jesus and just letting my heart express what is in there to be expressed. And not all of that is for public consumption. Keep the main thing as the writer. Keep it pure and keep it pure, all right? And I just want to say, wow. Can you hear that noise?
Yeah, it's a little staticky.
Okay, it's technology. There it is. I would just say that from the beginning, that kind of would undergird our questions. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just so you know my heart in it, because I never ever thought of myself as a songwriter. I'm just a passionate lover of Jesus and someone who's very grateful for all that he's done in my life. So, and my vehicle to express that is songs, service, worship, truthful worship. So it encompassing and impacting the whole of my life. And one of those areas is songs. And I'm very passionate about songs and very, I've, done a lot of research on songs and why different songs, would touch the hearts of people and why others don't. And I've heard a lot of worship songs over my years, and I've heard a lot of good ones, and I've heard a lot of bad ones. And I've written some of the bad ones, don't worry. And, I'm just passionate that through it all, that our heart intent, as worship writers, remember that. We're not gig writers, we're not just writers. We are writers of songs of worship. And worship is holy, it is of a different kingdom than any other song you would attempt to write. So its basic reason for being is different than any other song that you would craft, so to speak. So just remember that intent and agenda. The Father is always searching for those who worship him in spirit and in truth. So the truth of our worship and the truth of our writing. Just you need to know before God that where you are and what you are saying is truthful. Okay? Is that all right to say that?
Yes. Amen.
Good. Don't be quiet. All right? Yeah. Okay, do you want me to go through these questions, Travis?
Yeah, that'd be great. I think that'd be a good spot to start. And I told the class if they think of any questions as we mosey along, that they could maybe ask them at the end if there's a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Great.
Well, I'll just dive in. It says, how do we create a culture where songwriting is prevalent in the context of a worship team? I think that creativity is, we are made in the image of God. We are all creative. And I think that if you are a leader of a team, a leader of a creative team, a worship team, then one of the ways to create that culture is you have to be creative. And you have to have a permission-giving environment. I love just asking people always to express, to write songs, to not filter them too much before they are heard, to just, there's no kind of wrong answer. I think where creativity and songwriting gets stifled is if there is such a process for people, or bars for people to jump over before a song is heard, or that kind of makes it can really easily stifle creativity. So I think in a creative culture, there needs to be a lot of joy, because us creatives can get very intense and we hold our songs so tight. And I've taught people over the years that when you are showing a song, you've actually got to let it go. You've got to let it out of your hands and let it go, because if people don't like it, it's not they don't like you, it's just they didn't enjoy that song. But I always go, well, there's more songs, so just keep writing. Don't small down the process by thinking of all the wrong things, or they're not going to like this, what do people think? We have to create an atmosphere of joy, an atmosphere where someone can speak into your song and you're not going to get crushed about it, an atmosphere where there are lots of ideas flowing, and that comes down to good leadership. So I would say to any leaders in the room, is make sure you're creating a culture that is that you're embracing, that you're not knocking people out, and making it too hard for people to submit songs or bring new ideas. And we need lots of ideas, because the more ideas, the more chance we have of getting one really good idea. It's the same with songwriters. I'm like, if that wasn't your finest song, or that wasn't your finest moment, that's okay. It means you're closer to a better song. So, but leaders, we just need to help people be free with it. Help people not to be too intense, because sometimes it's the intensity that actually turns a culture into something that's very stiff and regimented, and that is never a help to releasing creativity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, you're so quiet. But lovely. Us Australians, we're very brash. We're very... so you're just so lovely. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I just want to come and sit in there and give you all a big hug. Where do you find inspiration? Where do you find inspiration for your songs? So, for myself, I've kind of grown up in church since 15, so always in the house of God, sitting under great teachers and leaders and great preachers, through sitting at the Bible and just reading and asking the Holy Spirit to, show me something, bring something to light in my spirit that I can help others voice what's inside them. And then the other thing is just things that move you. For me, like at the moment I'm writing, today I'm spending the day writing, and I'm working on this project called Revealing Jesus, and we're doing a live recording actually in the States, in Birmingham, on 30th of September. Myself and Israel Houghton and a few other people, and we're coming together and we're writing with just this purpose in mind, revealing Jesus. What can a congregation sing that just declares the finished work of Christ? And what does that mean? So for me now, I've got a really specific subject. And for me as a writer, if you give me a specific subject, that really helps me. I can find subjects, I get moved by things. I'm often writing for people who are suffering with different illnesses or whatever, because it moves me. For my kids in Africa, that moves me, and that can help me write a song, or if I get a subject. So, I'm just pouring in this, the Bible on the cross. I'm pouring in writers who I respect on the cross. Everything they've written, like they're different, what they think about when they think about the cross. And I'm just kind of ingesting that as much as I can, because here is the thing with the writers, with all of us. Out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks. So it's very critical that what you are putting in, if you want something great to come out, you've got to put in great stuff. And if you're just kind of copying pop songs or, that it's just, you can do so much better than that. You must put in great stuff so that when your heart speaks, which is what writers do, right? Mm-hmm. Your heart speaks. And so you've got to fill your heart with great stuff. And so for me, I'm very inspired at the moment about the cross and about the finished work of Jesus. And what does that mean for us as believers? So, that's for me with inspiration. It says here, I was one of the first female worship leaders for integrity. How did that come about? It came about by accident. And I didn't mean to be. I was preparing as one of the team in charge of vocals, and I do some worship leading. I never wanted to be a worship leader. I didn't ever like being at the front. And our worship pastor, the week that we were recording that album, and so my whole job was vocally, and I still love that, producing vocals, just choir, arrangements, all the different sounds that we could create, and I love that, and I love good singers, so that was my role at our church for many years. And then our worship pastor left that week. And I'll never forget Brian coming over and saying, "You have to lead this album." And I'm like, "You're crazy. What are you on? You need to stop." I didn't want to do it. And I was really pregnant with our second child. And, any woman who's really pregnant, you're not feeling like doing that. And thank God the video didn't work that night. See, God is so kind. But that's why we did it. And so, I was asked to do that. And so eventually I said, okay, I'll do it. But nothing in me wanted to do it. And it was actually a little bit later. It was a bit sad. I got some terrible correspondence from some women who were saying, that was I was meant to be the first, and da-da. And I'm like, what the heck? It's really random. So, I just did that, and actually that night for us, even though it was significant, I think, praise God that the girls, we've been able to find our voice and strengthen it without kind of being that feminist, having that harsh feminist attitude. We just, us women, we are come alongside kind of people. That's who we are. And that's just what I did. And I love that we have found, globally, we have found that strength in worship leadership without that kind of anger that can that try to prove a point. I'm a woman, I can do it. There's none of that, and we would never tolerate any of that nonsense anyway. It's like, no, we're all just being who God's called us to be. And why was I telling you that? Oh, because that night was actually a really sad night, because our worship pastor, who had been in our world forever and ever and ever, he wasn't there. And so I led, but for all of us, we were sad together. And but we just kept leading, because, in the end you understand that on the mountains and the valleys, you don't ever stop worshiping, and so it was tested that night, and so that's what that was all about. Okay, next. How do you know when a song is finished? This is a really hard thing. I'm still trying to finish songs that I recorded 10 years ago. I'm like, I could still do that or that. I don't know that as a writer you're ever completely happy, but at some point, for the sanity of yourself and your family and all your friends, you have to say, that is done. That is done. And, I always say the best ones who will eventually find out if a song is any good or not is the congregation. Because we're talking about congregational worship, most in this context. It's not me that would, if we're talking about Hillsong worship, it wasn't me. Often I would decide if a song would go through, but it was never really me that decided if a song would work. Because, sometimes I got it wrong, sometimes I would get it right. It's the congregation who choose. And I love that. I love when songs are tested. And that's been the beauty of Hillsong music, is that by the time a song gets to that project, it's been really tested within the context of church life. And that's a great thing for local church, And so any churches who are doing music, or recording music, you should always make sure before you're presenting it en masse to a global church that your church, this is a song that works and actually assists in the releasing of worship within the congregation. So for me, like, I've been working on a song this week called Heaven, and I've put it down. And I've listened to it a few times. I don't listen to songs, like 100 times. I'm too ADD for that. I get a bit bored. Because I'll talk myself out of the song altogether if I'm too intense about it. And so, probably I'm at the point where I want to change a couple of chords, but then I will finish. Then I'll just go, look, it's finished, and I will hand it over. And if anyone else wants to change it or whatever, then that's fine. But as far as what I can contribute to that song, I probably think I'm done, almost done, like 98%. And I think you have to kind of get there. Like, if you look at anything that the Coldplay guys, because I love their music, I love their sounds, their melodies. But, they say when they're doing an album, where they waste a lot of their money is it finished? And so they go back and they throw songs out, what they thought was finished, and then they try again. And they're like, well, probably we were finished 6 months ago, and I don't know if we've made it better or worse. And that's the wrestle, the tension with any songwriter, I would say. And so you need to know, sometimes you need to bring a friend in who you trust and go, is this finished? I would say on a lot of Hillsong music, especially, over the last, where I had more influence, kind of that first 15 years of Hillsong music, I don't think, even if songs said, hang on a minute, my daughter's walking in with a cup of coffee for me. Thank you, my princess. Yeah, train up a child in the way she should go. I don't think, even if songs said one person, as far as a writer, I don't think there were many songs that really were just one writer. Because we would write a song But then by the time it was taken to the team and people added some nice little lines and helped arrange songs, and the church would kind of push a song to where maybe you'd sing choruses again, or a bridge becomes a chorus because the church loved it so much, or whatever. Can you see what I'm saying? It was a process. And so, yeah, knowing when a song is finished, I think you have to just thank God now, you know, with children, and now I have 2 grandchildren, and we've taken on a church, and life is just so busy. I'm kind of quicker to finish now. I'm like, okay, that's finished. That's all right. In what ways has the Hillsong Ministry developed your songwriting? Well, you know, for me, I mean, that's where I have found the confidence to even bring a song. You know, I would write a lot of songs, but I would never show them to anybody. I don't think it was until I understood that sense of safety and family that, you know, I could even bring songs. So, you know, Shout to the Lord, classic example. You know, like I sat on that song, and then I thought, you know, this may be a congregational song. Maybe I should play it to my worship pastor. But when I played it to him, like, I was so embarrassed. I apologized all the way through. I made him and the music director at the time stand with their backs to me over by the wall because I was just so embarrassed. I still, when I'm introducing songs that I've written, I have to really I get so, like, embarrassed. I don't know why, I'm just not confident still with that writing, because it's so personal, you know, and you're putting it out there. And, you know, I just kind of get ready for people to go, no, that's really bad. So with that song, Shout to the Lord, you know, that was classic. And it wasn't until, you know, my worship pastor said, that is a beautiful song. I think we should do it this weekend. And I'm, really? Wow. Do you want to change it? Do you want to? It's like, no, we should just do it. And so we did it. And I think that's actually the beauty of church family, wherever that is. You know, for all of you, you know, for you to be involved in a church family, or you've got a beautiful college family, it looks like you have their university family, who you can feel safe to bring your songs to, and safe that someone could help make your song even better. And I think that's the thing with Hillsong. And I think, you know, we're being around incredible writers, like, you know, with Ruben and Joel. There's a guy, Matty Crocker, Brooke. You know, I mean, I've written a lot of bad and average songs. You know, I've hardly heard anything like that from them. They're just incredible writers, and that causes you, you know, when you're around greatness, that causes you to really hone your gift. And I think, again, that's the strength, and that's the strength of you guys being together, to allow your individual genius to help bring genius out of you, you know, and I think that's a part of maturity, because if you get a bit threatened with your songs or whatever, a bit precious about your songs, you'll actually never understand the beauty of that, and it actually is a wonderful thing. Is that good?
That's awesome. Very good.
Awesome. Awesome. Say that. Awesome.
Awesome.
That's the Australian. Awesome. Okay. Well, I keep going. Is anyone asleep? You bored? Anything?
Darlene, I wish you could see how packed this room actually is. There's about 45 eager songwriters in here, and we're just kind of hanging on every word. But Skype is always awkward because you're never sure if you're hearing what the other person is hearing. But there is room noise, and everyone's engaged. So.
Okay, I'm just checking. I don't know if that guy in the beanie, the blue beanie on the floor, are you okay?
Yeah,
Okay. I like you. I don't know anything about you, but...
Nice.
He's blushing.
That's good. I just love a room full of young people who are hungry about the things of God. I just go, you're in the best spot. It's awesome. Okay, What activities encourage your songwriting? Well, as I said, being around great songwriters. Coffee late at night? No. Alone in a field? No. At the beach? In the water? Yes. We've moved. We took a journey last year, and my husband said to me, should we go on more of an adventure? We've had an adventurous 25 years or so. I'm like, sure. So we've taken on a church. We're still involved in Hillsong and conferences and stuff, but we took on a church, and now we live near the beach, and it's just so awesome, and it really inspires me. I love going to live bands. I don't know if any of you like that. I mean, I don't like hanging out in pubs and stuff, but I do love going to see live bands. I love going to see, like, on the coast where I'm living now, which is like an hour north of Hillsong Church. It's very much a music hub, a lot of country music, which, okay, I don't know. I'm getting there, stretching out. I'm trying to. We have our own recording studio up here, and we have a lot of really great country artists up here, and they all record up there. So I've got to kind of go, wow, that's awesome. But I love hearing young bands. I love hearing indie bands. I love hearing lots of different music. I love hearing, like, it inspires me to listen to what some of the young people are writing, especially lyrically, because they're, you guys could agree or disagree with me. You guys are living in it, but your lyrics are much more raw, R-A-W, raw, than, say, my generation, who probably, I tend to be just not as, what do I tend to be? I tend to be a little bit more, I guess, churchy, how I was brought up. But you guys kind of speak more from your heart, not from your, just your environment or your upbringing, and I love that. And so I like to be around, I like to hear what's happening with our young writers. And, I love going to, I just love music. You've got to love music if you're a writer. I just love listening to music. My daughter brings home Chloe, who is just here. She's 19, and she's Miss Vintage, and her world is about record players and sewing everything and making everything that she eats. And, she loves music, and she's continually bringing home these big albums, LPs of these vintage bands, and, it's fantastic. And that would inspire me. That would really inspire me. I got to have a great conversation with Bono. And I know it sounds like I'm bragging, and I am. There was but to hear him. So they were at the end of a tour, and we are friends with Bill Hybels, and he knows that I love, again, the way they write their lyrics. And I said to him, so I need to hear some of the process. And Bill was telling me that he went into a session where Bono was recording vocals in Ireland, and he just sat at the back of the room. And what Bono did was, he didn't come with all of his stuff finished and nice and, it's all written out, and, we can't record until we're like that. He went in with some ideas and an idea of where he wanted to end. And they put that music up, and he literally just, like singing, just letting his heart sing and see what comes out. And some of his best songs, have come out. Are you still there?
Yep, we're still here.
Oh, there. Okay, I lost you. Some of his best songs have come out from that. Just singing out whatever comes, like not filtering it before it comes out. And like, I find that, and I find that process really inspiring. And I've tried a lot more at the piano in the last few years, because sometimes I have a thought and sometimes I don't. And so I don't even let that I don't have a thought stop me now. I just get on the piano and just ends up a bit better than that. But, you know, just that inspires me and it encourages my songwriting. I think you've got to be a good listener to be a good musician. I think, you know, so just remember that. You know, a good musician, good singer, a good communicator of music is always a great listener. And so develop your art of listening. You know, and that comes also with maturity. You'll hear, you know, often in church bands when we get up to rehearse and all the guitarists are fiddling around and the drummer's fiddling around, the vocals are just, you know, chatting a little bit, you know, not really digging in and listening, and we're trying to learn a new song and you've heard it once of the chorus, so you start playing and you stop listening, and it actually waters down your playing, it waters down your ability to really take in what you were hearing. And so with songwriting, it's exactly the same thing. You know, you've got to listen even to your heart, to what you want to communicate. Listen to great music. Listen to music that inspires you. You know, I like just at home tilting up the orchestral music, and, you know, sometimes it'll just have me in tears, and not because of any reason, just because of some of the highs that and the lows that are transpired through orchestrations that you can't hear anywhere else. And I'm like, okay, so how do I take the church on a journey like that? You know, and so I start listening from a deeper place, and so that will encourage your songwriting. At what age did songwriting come alive? Well, as I said, 15, really when I got saved. And it was my lifeline. How did your passion for songwriting go beyond self-expression into serving the local church? Well, I think I've covered that, hey?
Yes.
Just my passion for Christ. And that is still what drives me. It's still what keeps me. You know, sometimes I go, oh, man, I'm just too old for this. But actually my passion for Christ keeps me wanting to explore a little bit further. You know, what else can we say? What will actually help the church? What will help the church? I fell in love with the local church because it gave me a sense of family. And, you know, if you've been disconnected from family, which I'm sure a lot of you have got interesting family lives, because we're all human, right? You know, for me, I don't know, I think the first time I really sensed the presence of the Lord, that has become my, you know, the dearest thing to me. And so, you know, that's also why my service in context of the local church is so, I'm just devoted, because, you know, what Jesus has done. Okay, number 9, having faced a large amount of success, what is the best way to stay in humility? Church family, just staying in the Word. Humility is a funny thing. You know, my last message to our team at Hillsong Church, I went through all of the things that I could say to them. You know, I wanted to leave them with something that meant something, you know. And I thought, out of all of the subjects that I could teach on, what should I teach on? And I really felt the Lord just tug at my heart and say, humility. Because actually, you know, I would say that as a pastor, leading a team of creative genius and all that, that was one thing, but actually leading a team through success has by far been the hardest thing that I've ever done. And so humility was where I ended up. That was my message. And we just, you know, it's hard to teach on humility, because we all have issues of pride, and we all have things we're dealing with. And so I just went to what the Word says about humility and how much God actually detests the proud, but His heart leans in toward the humble. You know, and so I think if you're staying just close to Jesus and you just don't allow, success is fleeting for anybody. Even if it's a long-term success, it's still, Whitney Houston, a great example. We were never designed to receive glory. We were designed to bring glory.
That's right.
And so with success, if you're taking glory and starting to, even if other people are kind of pushing that onto you, our human makeup is not equipped to handle that continually. And it's not a matter of if you will get into trouble, it's a matter of when. And what happens when you walk outside of humility, your perspective, your truth becomes blurred. When there is finance involved and we live in a greedy world, the spirit of the world is about me, self. So when there is finance involved, people can become very greedy and they'll say whatever they want to say, to be part of that action. People can be very, very cruel. And so you just got to know that you know that you know that you're doing these. I go back to what I said right at the beginning, doing it all for the right reasons. Because if you never, ever earn 1 cent from songwriting, you need to know that you gave it all for all the right reasons and that it's still brought that level of fulfillment as it should. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anyone got any questions on that before I move on?
I think we're good.
You're just all too nice. Okay, songwriting process by yourself or in a collaboration. Well, for example, today I've got some ideas. I've sung a lot of them into my phone in the last couple of days, and written a lot of ideas down. And so what I'll do now is I'll go into my piano here at home and just start to play some of those ideas and just see if anything still resonates, if anything feels like it has got a good flow to it, then I'll start to build on that. And if I'm collaborating, like the song that I'm working on today, will be collaborating with someone, and so because they're actually in the United States, so what I'll do is today I will just put down some ideas, and then I will send, that's what I'm saying, you have to be brave, you can't be too worried about what people think. I'll send those ideas off to this person, and then they will either say, look, I love that, or I felt a connection with that, I'll build on this part, and then they'll send it back, and I'll hear what they've done. I'm like, oh, okay, we've taken a different route, so I'll just ride that for a little while and see how it feels, and I like collaborating. I think we're better in bunches. Then we can do more than we can as one. Writing on your own is very nice. It's very nice, and if you're an amazing writer, then that's fantastic. But I like doing that, but I tend to also love just hearing what other people have to say and including that in my process. Make sense?
Yes.
Favorite Hillsong project? No idea. No idea. There is a lot of them, and I have no idea. Favorite co-written song? Ooh, probably any song I've written with Marty Sampson because I love Marty Sampson and he's one of the best people to co-write in the world. He's the most generous songwriter I've ever met. So he is, do you know who Marty is? He wrote, what did he write? Carry me here in your arms of love. Now he wrote Savior King. We love you, Lord, we worship you. That song. He wrote a lot of the early United songs. He was in the early United team. He's an amazing person, and he will he will bring out the best in you. And so he would be my favourite co-writer. Favourite self-written song, again, I don't know. That's hard. I really wouldn't know. I like a song that I wrote with Marty called His Glory Appears. I really like that song. Yeah. Number 12, many of us know the story behind Shout to the Lord. I've told you about that. Share anything behind Worthy as a Lamb or the Potter's Hand. Well, you know, Worthy as a Lamb is, we needed a song for communion. I think it was Tuesday and we had rehearsal Wednesday and we needed a communion song and I couldn't find anything that I really loved, so I thought I'd just try and write one. And I did.
Good song.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. For me, if I'm on a deadline, for me, like some people can't do deadlines, it freaks them out. If I have a deadline, I'm really good with that. If you say I need a song in 1 hour and it needs to be on this and this, I could probably do it. That's me working to my strength. It may not be the best song because I don't get to spend a lot of time, you know, just listening and letting it sit for a few days or letting it sit for a few months, whatever. But I could do it, and that's kind of how I work. Potter's Hand, you know, that's really a prayer. That's just a prayer. I think just came out of a season of, you know, when you feel like God is just saying, you know, there is, I want more of your heart. You're still holding a little bit back. And so it's just a prayer really at the piano. And as I said, if I've got something deep to say, I normally say it in a song. I don't communicate in of those deep places in many other ways. You know, I kind of speak a fair bit now, teaching or whatever, but I still like to communicate those deep places in a song because it just comes out of me truer than just something written. You know, that would be my best explanation. So there you go.
That is amazing. Do we have a couple of seconds for a couple of quick questions?
Of course.
All right, students, there's a question. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, my name is Jessica. My question is, do you only write when you feel inspired by the Holy Spirit, or do you, like, practice writing?
I'm writing all the time. So I think, you know, it's part of who I am really. And so, you know, I have a journal with me at all times. I mean, we have our iPhones, which are wonderful. I mean, I love the smell of paper though. You know, I'm a bit of a old school like that. So I have my iPhone, but I love my journals. And so I make a habit of writing. I would never go to bed without my journal near my bed or my iPhone because just to wake up, and you know, often you wake up with a song and you think you will remember that, and you never do. You never do. Well, I never do. And I'll sing it to myself 100 times in bed and think, yep, I've got it. And then in the morning I'm like, what was that? So I think it's a discipline of writing. You know, I think if you are serious about being songwriters, then this track in your life needs to take up space. Let it take up space. It's a valuable space. You know, leave time. I've had to learn many years ago, you know, as a mum and then as a pastor, and to leave margin in my day for writing. And if it's important to you, you will. You know, if it's the things that are of value to you, you will find the money and you will spend the time. But you know, you got to work it out in yourself if it's valuable to you, and then just make a habit. And that's why too I like to go and hear bands, and because I think it's part of just feeding that writer in me, and that's my discipline of writing. And then sometimes I feel so inspired, I will write. But, I don't always wait for that, because sometimes you've got to action it first, and the inspiration follows.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Somebody else with a question? Yeah, go for it.
All right, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, my name is Javier, and I am bilingual, and I wanted to ask you, tell me about your experience in recording songs in Spanish, because I know Hillsong has 3 albums in Spanish. And,
Yeah.
Unidos permanecemos con todo en mi lugar. Tell me about recording the greatness of our God in Spanish.
Well, I love Spanish is my favorite. Hillsong have just done a global project, and they said to me, "What language do you want to do?" And I'm like, Spanish.
Amazing.
It is so beautiful. It is such a beautiful language, and in Australia we're a little bit backwards as far as even in schools. Language is always optional. You can opt to do a language. Some schools will teach you Japanese because we're so close to Asia, but we don't have this culture of being multilingual in how we approach life. And actually, because I get to travel, it's one of my great sadnesses is that I, as a child, I didn't learn, at least one more language. But so what we do, we have a guy, Tony Romero, who is amazing. He heads up all the worship for the Spanish services at Hillsong Church, and he would come in and coach us. And that's what he does. He works hard at making sure that the what is it called when the translations are as close to the original meaning, and that they sing well. And then he is in the studio with us, and he makes you sing it 1,000 times until you get it right. And that's actually what I love. And so then last time we were in South America, I took a translator with us, and for all of the worship nights, in my in-ears, you have in-ear monitoring, and so in my in-ears, I had the translator correcting my translations as I was singing while I'm leading worship, so that I wasn't doing the Aussie version, and saying the songs wrong. At times I do, trust me, it's so bad. But just to respect the local language, and I don't know, and there's something so beautiful about it. And so, with all of those translations, we work very hard to get them as true as we can. And then we do try to sing them live when we're in that part of the world. And, and I feel a great responsibility, actually. So I'm just about to do You Are Love, my last album. We're just about to do that in Spanish. And I'm excited and nervous about it because I know it's going to take a lot of time.
One more question? Yeah. Sure. This is David, Darlene.
Hi, David.
Can you see me?
I can.
Okay, well, I have a question. I was wondering, how did you know you were called into the ministry?
Well, you know what? What happened with me is that I'd been singing on this children's television show full-time since being 10 years old. And then after I got saved, I did a lot of jingles, and that's kind of how we earned money. We had, it was fantastic, and I loved it. It actually really honed my vocal skill because, you're not allowed to get away with anything. But actually, after I got saved and I started to hear music differently, my heart just so responded differently to music. And I just became so dissatisfied with singing anything but songs of worship. And that's not everybody's story. But it's my story. And so for years still I did jingles and that, but I just, I don't know, I just prayed and it's like, God, you're doing something in my heart. We had a struggling business. We had our 2 little babies. Our reality and the dreams that were in our heart about ministry were very, very different. And so we just really committed it to God. And, I think really from the moment I got saved, I felt a dissatisfaction with music for music's sake. And, I work with some amazing Christian musicians who don't feel like that at all. They actually get quite ticked off with music in the church, and they'd rather bring excellence to music in general, and that's cool. But for me, I felt such a dissatisfaction, and I felt ruined really for anything else. So over years, I just started serving in my church, and I wasn't at Hillsong Church, I was in another church, and just started serving, and I couldn't get enough of it, and I'm pretty much the same. And so I really went on that journey, and then Brian asked me one day, will you be our worship pastor? And I'm like, well, what is a worship pastor? I don't even know what that is. I tried to buy books on it, and I couldn't even buy a book on it. There wasn't anything out there. I'm like, hey, so I kind of had to carve it out for myself, really, and get it from God. I read everything Graham Kendrick had ever written, anything Jack Hayford had ever written. I listened to, John Maxwell on leadership and tried to pull that worship side and leadership side in together. And I just studied and actually had to pull it out for myself. But I'm actually so glad of that now. I really am, because it's in me. And I'm ruined for anything else. I just love being part of the local church. And I love seeing people, this ordinary people like you and I, ordinary people who don't even have an inkling for music, but because they're created to worship and because there's a part of their heart that needs to express something deep and anthemic and magnificent, as is the praise of God. It's such a privilege to be able to even play a small part in helping release that heart's cry in a musical sense. Music, we can pray and we can do all those things, but music pulls all of our senses into line. It's the only thing that kind of commands us at a deep level to come into line. And I think, in the Psalms alone, it says over 40 times, sing a new song. Sing it. Don't just say it. Sing it. Let music do what it was created to do in you. And just to be able to play a tiny part in that, and that just totally gets, if you want to see me get inspired, that inspires me to keep going.
That's awesome. Darlene, how can we be praying for you over the next couple of weeks and months?
Oh, well, I'll tell you how, because we have come into this new area, and it's an area that is it's amazing, it's quite forgotten. It's got the highest level of teenage pregnancy, second highest in Australia. It is, we've had the 2 largest drug busts in Australia has come from this area. It's a really broken area, but God is doing amazing things, and I would just ask that you would pray that the Holy Spirit would just move and that we could be the church that we need to be. And, I'm every week now teaching the worshippers in this area on what it means to not just play worship, but to be a worshipper, to lead from that place. And I would just pray that, you would pray that there would be revelation in this part, the central coast of New South Wales. There would be a revelation of Jesus in this area. Oh, I'm loving it. It's so exciting. And, I just appreciate your prayers. And God is good. I'm going to be praying for you. I'm really believing that every single one of you, I know you've got the hand of God in your life. And I know that. And never let anybody convince you otherwise. And I'll be praying for you that you really do find the wonders of Christ as you really lean in to write God's songs. You find fresh wonders and you bring them to the table. And I look forward. Just send me your songs. I'd love to hear them. Travis, I'm sure, will send them to me. And I'd love to hear them because I want to hear what God's doing in your lives. And I speak blessing and favor in your personal worlds, and that you really will be blessed. In Jesus' name, amen.
Darlene, this has been so wonderful. And I know just on a personal level for us in the class, your obedience and your platform has been so affirming, especially to our female worship leaders in our program. On a personal level, and I know some of the people in this room share the same story. I was a teenager about 15 years ago working in a bakery where they were playing the Hillsong records, and then my mom came home with a Hillsong tape, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I never knew worship music could be this expressive, and I didn't know we could get this excited about God. And I just praise God for all the songs that you allowed in your obedience to let the Lord write through you, let the peace of God reign. All those songs that have given us a language now to respond to God have given the world a language to respond to God that we wouldn't have had if you had not been obedient towards God. So we want to thank you for your obedience in the way that, even though we don't personally know you, the way that you have led us into worship and the way that you've inspired the next generation, even now at Hillsong, and the way that they lead us in worship and the way that they inspire us. And we know that a lot of that has come through the conduit of your obedience. So we just want to say thank you to you for everything that you've given to us. So God bless you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you all, and we'll talk to you soon, hey?
Talk to you soon. Thank you, Darlene. God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye.